Hello and welcome to the United Community Channel. My name is Jack and this is your latest Manchester United news, and we've got a big show. It's all around Marcus Rashford. The big news coming out today again, it's kind of been doubled down on, is that Marcus Rashford is 100% up for sale by Manchester United. So we're going to talk about it. Jamie Jackson has been speaking about it in The Guardian. Laurie Whitwell has been speaking about it in the last hour or so on the Stretford Paddock. We've got Sky Sports are talking about it. Plenty of updates to get into. I want to run through some of the stats on last night's game as well, because we're still in great humour after last night's win, aren't we? Well, I certainly am anyway. Bouncing around today with a big smile on my face. So happy days. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. And we're going to talk a little bit about Harry Maguire. Potential for a new deal at Manchester United, or maybe at least an extension on his current deal. We'll talk about that. We do know, and we did see that he had a great game last night against Manchester City. And now with a back three, is it maybe time for Harry Maguire to play a more important role in this Manchester United team? Smash a like on the video if you haven't done so already, guys. I do appreciate it. Let's try to get to 25 likes if we can throughout the video, and do hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel as well. But get your thoughts in to the live chat as always, guys. I want to know what you guys think. David is in, Passat is in. David says 115 seconds between the goal. Poetic, exactly. 115 charges, 115 seconds between both goals, between Manchester United being 1 down to 2 on up. It's absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And I'm over the moon today. I'm over the... Speaking about the game anyway, guys, let's jump straight into it. We've got some stats on last night's game, and I just want to go through some of these with you. Amorim's Manchester United beat Guardiola as Man City 2-1, but dominated the game, beating them in the following statistics. Tackles won 24-14, touches in the opposition box 22-18, shots inside the box were 7-3 in United's favour. Big chances created, United had 3 to City's none. Goal scored, of course, 2-1, and XG, expected goals, United with a 1.99 XG compared to a 0.91 XG for Manchester City. Battered. They were battered. It was a boring enough game, to be quite honest with you. And I understand that if them 2 goals hadn't have been scored late on, maybe the reaction and the mood around Manchester United would probably be different today, and we would be saying, oh, we're coasting through games again, and we're not creating enough and we're not putting our chances away. But we scored 2 goals, and we scored it in the Etihad. And I seen I put it up on my Instagram story today. Amorim has beaten Man City at the Etihad in the league, and Mikel Arteta is still yet to do it. You know what I mean? So there are levels to these things. But being realistic, we have to say we're a work in progress. Absolutely we are. And what I've been most impressed with and happiest with over the last few months, over the last few weeks since Ruben Amorim came in, and to be honest with you, over the last few months, throughout the entirety of this season, is that defensively we've looked a lot better. We really, really have. I thought the back three yesterday were absolutely brilliant. Harry Maguire deserves massive praise, because he was really, really good last night. He is good in them in the back three area. You know what I mean? He's absolutely top notch when he's playing in a back three, and he was brilliant last night. Some of his statistics on yesterday's game: 100% tackle win rate, so he won every single tackle he went into. 100% of his ground duels were won also. He had 5 interceptions, 3 clearances, 3 tackles attempted, 3 tackles won, and 1 block. Colossal performance. It was an absolutely colossal performance by Harry Maguire. Now, and I think credit can't only be with Maguire, it has to be with the other 2 defenders that were alongside him. I thought De Ligt on the right and Martinez on the left were absolutely fantastic as well. I'm happiest with the Martinez performance more than anything else, because he's been a little bit out of sorts this season, and I mentioned it in the match preview that for a player with such confidence and aura and real determination, he looked over the last 2 games a little bit lacking in confidence, but it didn't show yesterday. against Man City, he was absolutely fantastic. And De Ligt on the other side has been just brilliant. He's been just brilliant this season. He really, really has. When you see some of that bullshit criticism that was labelled against him, I mean, Graham Souness again is eating his words, saying he was a lightweight defender. You know, what absolute nonsense, you know. So I think the back three were absolutely brilliant yesterday. I have to talk as well about, you know, how we're playing. I think this system, the 3-4-3 is, I think this squad is taking to it a lot quicker than I thought we would, if I'm being completely honest. Now, there like I said, there is a long way to go, and we've got, you know, a lot of work to do in terms of improving our chance creation and, you know, taking them chances when they do fall then as well. So there's a long way to go, but defensively, I think it's been really, really good, and I've been really impressed with how quickly this Manchester United squad has taken new ideas on board. And I think there's one player, you know, if there's one player that epitomises what Ruben Amorim wants, and he's obviously played for him before, it's this guy. It's Manuel Ugarte. What a performance out of him yesterday. He was absolutely sensational. We've been talking about needing a player like him for years. You know, Casemiro in his first season was fantastic. He was, but he was the wrong side of 30 years of age. This guy is you know, has the energy levels of a 22-year-old Casemiro, and he's got the quality to go with it as well. Some of the stats on him yesterday: 95% pass accuracy. I mean, 95% pass accuracy at the Etihad away to Man City for a player who's supposedly a defensive player more so than anything else. I think is just phenomenal. 41 passes attempted, 39 passes completed, 7 duels won, 7 tackles attempted, 4 tackles won, 2 interceptions, 1 key pass, and 1 shot on goal. Unstoppable. Absolutely unstoppable. He was phenomenal. And like I said, you know, players like Manuel Ugarte are the types of players that Ruben Amorim wants to have within his squad. You know what I mean? And I think if we can continue to recruit as well as we have last summer, I mean, we're talking about Ugarte, brilliant signing. We're talking about De Ligt, brilliant signing. We're talking about Yoro, brilliant signing. The only one that there's a question mark over is Xerxes. Now, he may turn out to be a good signing. He may not turn out to be a good signing. You can't get them all right. You know, nobody gets them all right. I mean, look at Guardiola, for example, in his first year as Man City manager. He bought a goalkeeper, sacked him off 12 months later and sold him. Bravo. And then he bought 2 fullbacks and didn't like him after 12 months and bought 2 new fullbacks the following summer. So, you know, you don't get every transfer right. But, I mean, if we can get... I mean, what we're talking about, how many signings did we make in the summer? So we got Ugarte, we got De Ligt, we got Yoro, we got Xerxes. Was it just 4 or did we get a 5th? Mazraoui. There you go. Jesus Christ, I'm probably leaving out the best one. Mazraoui's been absolutely phenomenal. So, you know, if you're talking about getting one wrong in 5, you've got an 80% success rate so far. The new board coming in and recruiting and so on and so forth. I'm okay with that. And if that continues, if that trend continues, you know, in future transfer windows, then we're going to be okay, and we're going to be okay fast. But yeah, Manuel Ugarte, absolutely phenomenal. Now, we've got to get on to the main man. This guy, Amad Diallo, what an absolute gem of a player this guy is. And you know, big up to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer for signing this young man. And, you know, we were probably speaking only a couple of months ago about, you know, is Amad going to have a future at Manchester United? He wasn't getting game time under Erik ten Hag. You know, we've seen some, you know, moments of brilliance, like the FA Cup 4-3, the winning goal against Liverpool. But consistently, we didn't see an awful lot, and an awful lot was down to minutes and game time. And, you know, we were trusting the manager at the time, saying, you know, he's obviously seeing Amad week in, week out on the training ground. But as soon as Ten Hag was gone, Van Nistelrooy put him into the team, and he hasn't looked back since. He really, really hasn't looked back since. And if we look at some of the stats for Amad yesterday, Since his start against Leicester City, Amad Diallo has directly been involved in 7 Premier League goals. Only Mohamed Salah has been involved in more in the competition in that period. He's been absolutely phenomenal over the last couple of weeks. And I couldn't be happy with him. I'd say, be honest now in the chat, I'd say I watched the goal 40 times today. So yeah, absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely buzzing. Let's see what you're saying in the chat, guys. Get your comments in. We're going to move on and talk about Marcus Rashford in a few moments. Let me see what you guys are saying here. Michael is in. Good to see you. We've got That said, he hurt himself at school today. Hope you get better soon, man. Barry is in. Good to see you. Michael says, why Ruben Amorim left Rashford and Garnacho out of the Manchester derby. We'll get onto that in a moment, so we will. Let's see. We've got Mark is in. He says, hi, Jack. It's great to beat City. There's still loads of work to do, though, but I think if there ever was a right man to bring us back to the top, it would be the big, ballsy B-word Amorim. He has it all. Well, look, it's been... Now, look, I mean, if we hadn't won yesterday, Amorim would have had 1 win out of 5, or 1 win out of 6, I think. So, I love him. I do, and I think he's setting his stall out, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment again with the likes of Rashford and so on and so forth. But I'm really, really happy with him. Dylan with the super chat, appreciate it, man. He says, "Hi Jack. If we're to sell Rashford, how much do you think we can get for him? And do you think Amorim is doing the right thing selling him?" Well, let's get on to Rashford then and talk about him. Let's see, we'll get through the last. Appreciate the super chat as always, Dylan. Absolute legend. Maton says, Ahmad should be in prison for attempted murder. The man nearly killed me with a heart attack when he scored that goal. Yeah, you and me both, man. David says his first touch for the goal was unreal. It was world class. It really, really was. See how much he stretched for it. Hunger for the goal. Yeah, desire, determination. Johnny says, I'm so happy Rashford's getting sold. And Mark says, Ahmad is brilliant. He's one of those players that will get you shouting at the telly, driving him on. To be honest, I had a lot of emails to do, but I will blame Ahmad for not getting them all done. There we go. Happy days, happy days. Right, guys, I want to move it on. I want to talk about Marcus Rashford because it's the big talking point coming out today in relation to Manchester United. And obviously we know that there's been issues there. And not just current issues, but issues going on for, you stretch back as far as Ralph Rangnick. I think Ralph Rangnick dropped him he dropped him from the derby, didn't he? He brought him on and so on and so forth. So, look, the issues have been there for Marcus Rashford. But Jamie Jackson has been speaking in The Guardian today. He says Manchester United view sidelining Marcus Rashford as a key to cultural reboot. Club ready to cut losses, but see easier way back for Garnacho. So basically, we'll go down through the article anyway, guys. It says Marcus Rashford has been marginalised and put up for sale by Manchester United as part of a cultural reboot deemed necessary to transform the club after standards were allowed to decline for more than a decade. Sir Jim Ratcliffe is intent that there can be no passengers and is ready to cut his losses on Rashford if there are suitors in January. A willingness to take a short-term pain in pursuit of long-term gain was also behind Dan Ashworth's exit as sporting director after 5 months when United had paid $5 million to bring him in from Newcastle. Rashford and Garnacho were dropped by Ruben Amorim for the derby. And whereas a way back is regarded as possible for Garnacho, the feeling at the club is that Rashford's time is up. Amorim has decided Rashford needs to leave in the push to engineer a shift in culture throughout the club for football and non-football staff. United would countenance the cut price offer for Rashford. A move in January would be ideal, though his salary of £365,000 a week means only a few clubs could afford him. Yeah, I mean, it's huge news, and there's been other outlets that have been speaking about it since then as well. Laurie Whitwell has been talking in the on Stretford Paddock this evening, saying Manchester United have been open to offers for Marcus Rashford, not just currently, but before this season. So basically in the transfer window just gone, there have been United have been open to offers for him. Whether offers came in and United deemed him, to be too low, whatever the case may be, or whether no offers came in at all because of the money surrounding a deal you would need to get Rashford over the line, remains to be seen. Everybody's been speaking about it. Melissa Reddy from Sky Sports has been saying, as it stands, there are no suitors for Marcus Rashford due to his off-pitch behaviour, form and mega salary. This is the same issue in the summer. She also says Ruben Amorim has been unimpressed with Marcus Rashford's application at the training ground and his general demeanour, which led to his omission from the squad yesterday. And Total Barca are saying then that Barcelona have made initial inquiries into the availability of Marcus Rashford. Now there has been, I forgot to put it up on the screen as well, but there has been another report since we were live that I should have put up. Let me see, can I find it? Again, so we're talking Total Barca are saying that, but then we've got Mark Ogden saying Barcelona do not have the money to appetite to pursue a move for Marcus Rashford. And to be honest with you, I mentioned this the other day when someone mentioned Barcelona for Rashford. Barcelona are all over the place financially. They're not going to be able to afford Marcus Rashford unless he takes a huge pay cut. They're going to have to pay a transfer fee for him, and that transfer fee is going to be probably minimum 50 million pounds, and he's on 365 grand a week. They won't be able to pay him anywhere close to that. Barcelona won't be in the running for Marcus Rashford, in my opinion. I mean, when we're talking about potential suitors for Rashford, it has to be either PSG or Saudi Arabia. He's not going to go to Real Madrid, in my opinion. You know what I mean? He's just not. I mean, what? Where would he fit in? You know what I mean? Where would he fit in? Real Madrid don't need him. It's pretty simple. And when we talk about PSG, again, Laurie Whitwell has been speaking about it in the on the Stretford Paddock. He said Marcus Rashford is not on the agenda for PSG. So we spoke about this during the summer when we seen that PSG kind of distanced themselves from Marcus Rashford and removed themselves from the race to sign him. I think it's going to be very difficult. I think it's going to be very difficult to move Rashford on. There was some reports today as well suggesting that potentially it could be a loan move. The Bundesliga is a destination he could potentially move, but it would have to be a loan move similar to what Jadon Sancho did at Borussia Dortmund. I mean, anybody who's been watching the channel for long enough knows I'm not a huge fan of loan moves, loaning our players out. I wasn't a fan of the Jadon Sancho loan move, I thought. And again, sometimes you don't really have a choice because, if players are not going to play for the club or the manager wants a player gone and you can't sell him, maybe a loan is the only move. But what needs to be weighed up here with Marcus Rashford is if he does go on loan, is he that big of a hindrance within the squad to send on loan and play for someone else rather than keeping him? That's generally what I would say when it comes to loaning players. Why not just keep him until you can actually sell him fully? And I know there are loan moves where there's loans with obligations to buy, and then there's loans with, the option to buy. Obviously, the obligation from the selling club is what you want to see. And if we're moving Marcus Rashford on, you want to see an obligation to buy put into a loan move. You really do. I don't think a loan move is maybe it will happen. I don't see the benefits of it because given the money that Marcus Rashford is on, let's say he goes to Borussia Dortmund, for example, like Jadon Sancho did, we're probably going to end up paying 80% of his wages. Now, 80% of his wages are more than the majority of the Manchester United squad are getting paid anyway because he's one of the highest paid players at the club. So we're going to spend that amount of money just so he can play for someone else. I don't think Marcus Rashford is that big of a hindrance. I think if you don't find a suitor for him in January, you don't loan him out. You keep him and you use him where you have to. You don't have to use him all the time. You can let him sit on the bench and play him one in every 5 games if you need to. I just think it would be more beneficial for United to keep him rather than loaning him out. I think loaning him out is just, all it is devaluing players, because what happens is they come back with less time under contract. You can't get as much money for them then. And then if it doesn't work out, you're back to square one. And you paid all of this wage to see him play for somebody else. I'm not a huge fan of it. Dylan with the super chat. Appreciate it as always, Dylan. He says, I reckon a loan could benefit. Do a loan with obligation to buy would have more teams would have more teams interested. Well, see, the thing about it is that do you want to go out and say we're putting an obligation to buy in? You're not getting Marcus Rashford on loan unless there's an obligation to buy put into the loan deal. I think that would scare people away. It would scare clubs away, because the reason why teams take them on loan is because they can't afford to buy them. You know, that's generally the case. So, yeah, I mean, I just think, given everything that's going on with Rashford, you know, you have to take into consideration as well, he's been really poor over the last 18 months. Really poor. Now, we know there are 30 goal a seasons in him, but it's only happened once, you know. So it's a big risk for any club to take Marcus Rashford on. The off-field stuff, the scrutiny that comes with it, the price, and what kind of player are you going to be getting? You know what I mean? It's a big risk, in my opinion. Mark says, I have a sick feeling that no one will want him. His salary is too much. Dylan says, if United can't sell Rashford, we should just release him. Nah, we're not going to release him. No way. You shouldn't do that, because you'd have to pay out his contract anyway. Mark says, if we could get the team that want him on loan to pay most of the wage and a mandatory future fee. Well, yeah, I mean, that's the ideal scenario. You know, if he goes on loan for 6 months to Bayern Munich, for example, they pay his wages, which they probably won't. And then, you know, look, you pay his wages and we'll give you a cut down, we'll give you a knockdown price on him in the summer, you know. But I think, you know, we have structured the latest loan deal quite well when we loaned Jadon Sancho to Chelsea. And it was basically that Chelsea finish in the top 10. You know, Chelsea have to buy him, you know, and happy days. So, yeah, I mean, look, I do have faith in the people behind the scenes to get a good deal for Manchester United, because, you know, we're not being run by Ed Woodward and John Murtagh and these kind of guys anymore. Rick says, don't know why any top so-called club would want him. He's shite and a miserable little child. Sorry about the language. All right, we didn't read that out, Art. David says, it's strange. I always pictured Rashford there to the end, captain of the team someday. The world at his feet. Sad in a way to see how it all is. It is sad. It is. I agree with you, David. And I've said, you know, multiple times that I want Marcus Rashford, and I still do want Marcus Rashford to you know, to be the poster boy at Manchester United for all the right reasons. Scoring goals, celebrating in the Stretford end, lifting the Premier League title, lifting the Champions League as a Manchester lad, you know, as a United fan. That's what we want. We want to see that. And the majority of fans, I think some of the criticism and some of the you know, some of the maybe slanderous things that come towards Marcus Rashford, I think a lot of that is based off of disappointment within the United fan base, that we wanted him to be the one. He hasn't done it. He just hasn't done it, and it is a shame. Jack, we just sell Rashford for cheap, around 20-25 million. Anything is pure profit anyway. Yeah, but you also have to take into consideration, Dylan, that you've got a persona within the transfer market. And if United start selling the likes of Marcus Rashford for 20 million, clubs are going to go, you know, we can take advantage of these guys. And we've been taken advantage of in the transfer market for far too long. And I think, you know, when it comes to Marcus Rashford, you know, I think you've got to hold firm, and you've got to say, and I think the new ownership and structure behind the scenes will do that. They'll say, look, We value him at 50 million. I seen a report today that it could be anywhere between 40 and 55 million that United will look for. And we should stick to that. I do think there's a good player in Marcus Rashford. He just hasn't done it consistently enough throughout his entire career, which is a shame. How about Manchester City for Rashford, says Michael. I don't think he'd want to do that, to be quite honest with you. Finn says, give him until the end of the season. He knows what is expected of him. It's sink or swim. Yeah, I think that's probably the fairest thing to do, Finn, to be honest with you. I really do. It all comes down to the player as well, though. He's obviously going to be seeing all of these reports. He was left out of the Manchester derby. He was made train on his own with Garnacho, and the manager turned up to make sure, they were training correctly and so on and so forth. So he might say, right, well, look, my time is up. I might as well just get out of here in January. He might not want to leave. You never know. So time will tell. The Villa fan says, as a Villa fan, I've always said the money some of these youngsters are on can ruin their career 100%. Rashford has had good and bad seasons. 340k for him is too much and can affect your talent. Always said. Yeah, I agree, man. 100%. 100%. You're turning teenagers sometimes into millionaires, and it can't be good for them. It can't be good for them. I don't know, because it's, football is a free market and businesses can pay employees whatever they want, but maybe some kind of structure in place that, you're capped at a certain salary, up until the age of 21 maybe, or something. I don't know, but yeah, like you're turning teenagers into millionaires. It takes a very, you've got to have good people around you, and good honest people, that are not trying to take advantage of you. Family, people who were with you before you were famous and rich, just to keep your feet on the ground. And if you don't have that, then yeah, it can be a slippery slope. D says, I'd like to see Rashford leave tomorrow morning, jogging around the pitch like it's a light training session. Fellas on that screen and in these comments would cut your hand off for a chance. 100%, yeah. And there's two sides to every coin, you know what I mean? So, while we're saying here, maybe give him till the end of the season and see what he can do, I think, that's probably, from a financial standpoint, is what I'd be basing that on, is probably we're not going to get a suitor for him in January. We're probably best off just to keep him until the end of the year and use him sparingly and use him how the manager wants to use him, and then look for a full-time suitor come the end of the year. But I do agree in a way with you as well there, D, that, if he does leave tomorrow morning, I think if he stays till the end of the season, I think we're just going to see the same Rashford. I don't see it changing. I hope it does, because a Marcus Rashford that's playing well and scoring goals means United finish higher up the table, gives us a better chance of winning trophies. So I'm all for it, but I just don't see any change. So I can understand why getting rid of him in January, might not be the worst idea in the world. Mark says, I don't think it's a good idea selling him in January because we don't have the depth. And it's a great point as well by Mark for that. But in the summer, I think, unfortunately, time to sell him. Yeah, and again, a great point there by Mark that, you do have to take these kind of things into consideration. You're selling a player in January. Are you really going to be able to replace a player like Rashford in January? I don't think you are. The January transfer market is always quite hard to sign players in and sign good quality players. If you look at January over the last few seasons for United, it's been loan moves, loan deals pretty much. So, again, if you sell Marcus Rashford in January, what's the play? Are you going to be able to go out and sign a long-term replacement for him? I don't think you are. I think that will probably come in the summer. So you're basically a player down. I do think it's an area that we probably need to look to. And again, like we're talking, and again, I find myself falling into these old traps that I'm talking about. We need to find ourselves a winger now if Rashford goes. But do we? Because we don't really play with wingers anymore now that Amarim is in. Rashford has been playing in one of the number 10 roles. So is the winger, can we afford to get rid of Rashford now that we're playing maybe number 10s more than out and out wide players? That remains to be seen as well. So there's a lot of moving parts to this, and we'll figure it out as the days and weeks go on. At 10 minutes on the fable and story ground. He makes a better part of $500,000 a week playing for his boyhood club. Doesn't play like it. Get him out. Passat says Rashford has shown us this season was bad for him. The Villa fan says that's why we never raise Watkins' salary per week, even though he scores often. But he's not that type of player, so we don't want to raise his weekly wages. We keep him capped at 150k minimum. Yeah, there you go. So, and it's not a bad idea. I'm all for it. And as much as I hate Liverpool, you would say up until the last Mo Salah contract, their wage structure was fantastic. They kept, like, Mo Salah was on 150 grand a week for 4 or 5 years at Liverpool, and he was banging in goals. You know what I mean? So now that all has changed now. But Marcus Rashford is on Mohamed Salah money now. He's on similar money to Mohamed Salah, and look at the difference. Look at the output. So that's a big concern. Bilal says, sell him ASAP, sell him and go for Nico Williams. Bilbao sell him to us rather than Bilbao would sell him to us rather than Barcelona. Dylan says, if we sell Rashford, can we look at a youth academy? Yeah, well, look, I think we would know of somebody coming through at this stage. And again, you don't replace Marcus Rashford and bring in an academy graduate to take his place straight away. You just don't. There's got, and I mean that in the best way possible, that an academy graduate doesn't come directly from the academy and start for Manchester United all of the time to replace someone like Marcus Rashford. It just doesn't. You're going to need to drip feed him into the team over a couple of seasons. David says, what's the story with the other rat in the dressing room? Any weight to that story yet? So in terms of the leaks coming out, reports today are suggesting that Ruben Amorim has spoken to the squad and asked them directly, is anybody leaking the news? There is supposedly rumours going around. I was listening to the Stretford Paddock yesterday and Stephen Howson this morning, and he pretty much knows who's leaking, but he's not saying because it's not his thing to say. But he says it's going to come out eventually. That basically the whole of Manchester knows what's going on. But yeah, again, look, that'll come out in the next few days, I would presume. I think, and I think whoever's doing it will be dealt with accordingly, and rightly so. You know what I mean? I think it's only right. It's only right. That happens. Now, guys, I want to talk a little bit about something a little bit more positive, to be quite honest with you. And it's in relation, and who would have thought we would be saying, positivity, but this guy, Harry Maguire. Now, some reports coming out today suggesting that United could potentially offer Harry Maguire a new contract. His contract is up in January. However, Manchester United do have a 1-year extension that they can trigger. Now, they have to trigger it by the end of January. It's either the end of January or the start of January. Okay? And the report from Graham Bailey today has said Harry Maguire is not considering leaving the club at all, despite interest from several other clubs. Additionally, Amorim has discussed with Jason Wilcox the possibility of United at least taking up the option on Maguire's contract. So that's the option of a further year. Now, when it comes to Harry Maguire, I've always said about Harry Maguire, I have no problem with him staying at Manchester United. None whatsoever. But it has to be as a backup. It can't be as the number one starting player all of the time. Now, we seen Maguire yesterday at the Etihad absolutely have a fantastic game. And why? Because he's playing in a back three. Okay? Where did Harry Maguire make his name? Playing in a back three. He'd done it with England, and that's why he was so good with England, because he's got cover either side of him. And defensively in the air, aerially, he's very, very good, wins the ball very well. And we look at some of the stats that we were speaking about with Harry Maguire yesterday. 100% tackles won, 100% ground duels won, 5 interceptions, 3 clearances, and 1 block. A really, really good performance from him. So I'm all for Harry Maguire getting more opportunities at Manchester United in the back three, but he can't be the long-term solution. He still can't be the long-term solution. If United want to offer him a new, maybe 1 year extension after the option is taken up, brilliant. And I think Harry Maguire would be a really, really good backup option for us to come off the bench if we ever needed it, to play in a back three. He is a good option to have when we're playing the system that Ruben Amorim is playing. And it's quite strange speaking about Harry Maguire in this light, considering for so long we were talking about he has to go, he's not good enough, so on and so forth. But all of a sudden a new manager comes in with a new system and a new formation with new tactics, and Harry Maguire looks a lot more comfortable playing for Manchester United. Now look, I understand it's been one game, and City are not the juggernaut that they were, even last season. But I mean, Erling Haaland didn't turn into a bad footballer overnight, and Harry Maguire kept him. Now, not just Maguire, De Ligt and Martinez also kept him extremely quiet yesterday. Extremely quiet. So, I mean, Harry Maguire getting a new contract at Manchester United, or at least getting the option to trigger the 1 year extension, I'm all for. If he does get a new contract, I would like to see it on maybe on reduced terms. If we look at, let me see what he's on. He's on £190,000 a week. It's mad that we're saying that that's not massive money, but it is massive money. I mean, 190,000 per week. If United trigger the 1 year extension and then maybe next year say, look, we'll give you a new 1 year deal after that, and maybe drop you down to 140, 130 grand a week, brilliant. I think Harry Maguire as a backup, is a good option for us to have. But my point remains what I've always said. I'm happy for Maguire to stay, but it can't be as the number one. It just can't, And obviously we have brought in the likes of Lenny Yoro. You would be expecting him to get more and more game time as the season progresses. It looks like United are going to go back into the market probably in the summer for another left-footed centre-back. Again, we've links with Brantwaite don't go away, and Everton potentially could cut their asking price from 70 million down to 40 in the summer. Some of them reports over the last few weeks have been resurfacing again. So, I mean, you need a squad. I've said it an awful lot, and I'll continue to say it. You need a squad. Geno, thanks for the gift, much appreciated. You need a squad, and Harry Maguire would be a good squad player for us. He really, really would. He really, really would. And I think maybe a little bit of the pressure being taken off him, where he can, for example, like yesterday, come in and play at the Etihad and going, right, lovely, here we go, here's me chance. And he takes it, But he's not maybe put in a scenario where he's played week in, week out, and, all of a sudden mistakes start to happen. So, what about this young lad, Jack? Anything from him, the left back, that is? Yeah, well, he'll be here in the summer. So, United have a deal done with him. He's not even 18 yet. He can move when he's 18. So he's going to, United have a pre-contract for him on the table, or whatever the case may be. And a deal, I think, is pretty much done. Like, we've got the here we go from Fabrizio Romano. So he will be arriving in Manchester in June, July time. Yeah, so... But again, I mean, we were speaking about signings like that, weren't we, when it comes to the new ownership coming in? We spoke an awful lot about wanting to go out and sign these up-and-coming, hungry, young players that are maybe on their first or their second contract in their careers, that are looking to make a name for themselves. Get them in, develop them, turn them into world-class players. Borussia Dortmund do it, and then that's their whole club model. It's how they generate revenue. They bring players in under the radar as young, hungry players, develop them, and then sell them for huge fees. United can do the first two steps, but don't have to do the third step. We can just keep them then, And Ralph Rangnick spoke about it 2.5 years ago when he was United manager, interim manager. James says, as a Liverpool fan, 100% agree with you. There we go. Happy days. Guys, we're going to leave it there. I appreciate you all watching and listening. If you haven't already done so, please do smash a like on the video. Appreciate all the support, the super chats coming in as well. Absolute legends. Appreciate Dylan with a couple of super chats there. The support is absolutely phenomenal, guys. If you want to become an official channel member and support the channel in that way, you can. The link is in the description of the video. A couple of different options there to help support the channel on YouTube. Go check out the options. You get some extra content as a channel member as well, and a badge beside your name, priority chat read out, and you can come on the match reaction videos with us after each Manchester United game as well. So if that's something you'd like to do, check out the membership options down below, guys. Hit the join button, see what the options are, and of course it supports the channel an awful lot. The merch store as well, guys, is nearly done. Nearly done. I'm in contact with the guys who are doing it for me. It's a company that's doing it for me now, and they're nearly finished. I got all of the designs over to them. The Youth Trinity. We've got the Lenny Yoro one that I was wearing yesterday. There's a couple of Roy Keane ones on it. Ryan Giggs, Chikorito. We've got a few designs, so that should be up and running in within maybe a week or so, hopefully. But I keep you updated on it. I wanted to get it set up before Christmas, but unfortunately we couldn't get it done in time. But guys, thanks for watching. Do appreciate it. Smash the like button if you haven't done so already on your way out. It helps the channel an awful lot. Subscribe if you're new. I'll be back on Wednesday, and keep an eye out for the match preview on Wednesday lunchtime as well. We won't have anything tomorrow because I got training myself, but we'll be back Wednesday, and then we've got the watch along for Spurs on Thursday night as well. So busy week. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good night, and I'll chat to you on Wednesday. Take it easy. Good luck.